I'm Autumn Brown, front woman of the eponymously named soul pop band Autumn, a queer science fiction writer, a theologian, a mother of dragons, and a healing justice facilitator, and let's say orator, living on Dakota and Anishinaabe land, currently known as Minneapolis.
I love you so much. You are so weird. I am Adrienne Marie Brown, the sister of the lead singer of Autumn. I am a fat, black, queer witch writer, a gardener of healing ideas, and I feel like a divining rod for the ancestors. I live in the land of the Shakori, Skarura, Tuscarora, and Lumbee peoples.
And this is How to Survive the End of the World,
our podcast about learning from apocalypse with grace, rigor, and curiosity.
And learning from apocalypse is what we are currently doing. So we are not in our regular season. We are on break, but Adrienne and I wanted to come in with a love note and a prayer and a message and a spell in response to the devastating fires that are currently ongoing in LA County. We are watching this disaster unfold live before our eyes. We have, like all of you, I'm sure we have loved ones who are in LA County, loved ones who have evacuated, loved ones who have already lost their homes, people whose lives have been forever and fundamentally altered and changed. And we wanted to just come in with some spirit, presence, and prayer and love.
Yes, sister. You know, I feel like this is the time that when we started having this podcast and started having these conversations, I feel like we were thinking about this time. You know, we were taking seriously that Octavia Butler had told us that this was coming, and
she told us when.
And she said exactly when and to get ready. And, you know, it's really powerful to, you know, go back. I mean, for those who are reading the parable of the sower for the first time or kind of being like astounded by the timeline, you know, the election went to a far right Christian, you know, nationalist on the path of fascist in her book. And then it says by February 2025, there were fires. So in the place that Octavia was born, Pasadena, Altadena, in the Palisades in California, that section is all burning. A lot of it is already gone, and the fires are not contained as we're having this conversation. And I wanted to have a moment with you, sister, because I think that there's something about solidarity that helps ground us in moments like this. Mm-hmm. And what I feel happen, right? Like when something happens where I live or when something happens to people I love, you know, wherever they may be, there's this flailing about, this like overwhelm of like, oh no, that can't happen. And sometimes I'll shut down in response to that overwhelm. But pretty quickly I'm like, okay, I got to do something. And then I start becoming what I think of as like not helpful help, which is like, you know, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Well, who's doing this? Well, who's doing that? You know, like starting to ask a ton of questions to people who are like, I'm in the crisis. I'm going through it. And so you think you're helping me. It's not helpful to me to hear you ask the same questions I don't have answers for. It's not helpful to hear you ask me, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Like, I think that we need to understand, and that solidarity will help us understand, that we all need pretty similar things all the time. We need shelter. We need clothing. We need food. We need to feel that we can sleep safely. We need to feel like we can gather with our family, with our friends, with our community safely. We need blankets. We need diapers. We need the things that you need in a regular life, or the things that any community that's impacted by harm, by crisis, man-made or natural. These are the things we need. The thing that happens when these crises, these escalating man-made, man-influenced crises are happening, we're being stretched so far and in so many directions because, like you said, we're watching it all live. So it's no longer like I'm hearing about something happening in some other part of the world. It's like, no, I'm witnessing and watching people I love and strangers and everyone. I mean, I'm watching this video of someone try to get their pet to run through the fire to them. I'm watching these horses run away. I'm watching people film their houses burning down. You know, we're watching it just like we've been watching the genocide, just like we watched the aftermath of Asheville and the floods moving through everything, just like we watch and watch and watch. And so solidarity for me has become the key to sanity. Any kind of sanity, any kind of groundedness that I'm able to experience in this time comes directly from solidarity. Solidarity, not charity, right? It's not like those poor people over there, let me send them a diaper. That's not.
Although send them diapers for sure.
Send them a diaper. Whatever reason makes you send the diaper is probably fine. But the spirit of trying to protect your mental health while moving usefully through all of these crises, to me, it is solidarity, which is that sense of our futures are tied up together. Yes. Right now, you're the one going through this crisis. Tomorrow, it might be me. Or last year, it was me. Or it might be other parts of the community. We're all on one planet experiencing climate catastrophes that are in part a result of what we have done, right?
Yes.
We're all in one planet that is experiencing catastrophes tied to capitalism and colonialism and all these other things. When we can understand that we're all in this boat together and that we're not offering something down, but across, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I'm sending resources to those less fortunate than me. You know, it's more like I am sharing and redistributing what's needed to where it is most needed. And so when I'm watching the news, when we're watching what's happening in LA right now, immediately the first thing I do is look for what's the mutual aid infrastructure in that place. In Asheville, I was able to connect with Beloved Asheville and Firestorm Co-op and other places and be like, I trust them. They're moving with a mutual aid sensibility, which is a solidarity sensibility of how do we help ourselves all survive this. That's the place to look. In LA, there's Mutual Aid LA. MALAN is the sort of, what do you call that? Acronym. And
you got it.
They are, you know, here's what we are accepting right now. Here's what's most needed right now. The other way you can practice mutual aid is like people in your lives are going to say, here's the GoFundMe, or here's the place where, here's the specific request for resources that we have. And you can uplift and share those. And I think the other piece of solidarity that I just want to name here is allowing ourselves to pull survival out of the hands of institutions that have shown us over and over again that they're not going to be able to help us, right? Or help us all the way, right? So I stand for fire departments. As you know, I've been on this like deep dive study of like what fire departments do and how it's different from what the police do. And did you not know this? I have been like watching 911 and Station 19 and like I've just been doing this deep dive, like trying to like
I love that.
Me doing a deep dive. Me doing a deep dive is like binge watching television shows. I mean, that's how the first way I feed my curiosity is almost always the fictional. All right.
Good job.
So it's like first I feed the fictional and then I'm like, oh, I did not really understand that there's so much distinction often between these departments.
Oh yeah.
But there's so much distinction.
They're
and
so
so fire people are like my faves. But first responders generally, I'm like, I really love whatever it is in people that's like, I will show up for people's very worst moment and try to be my best self. Like that's an incredible characteristic. And so many of our fire departments, so many of our first responders are severely under-resourced at this time, or they're trying to, you know, like in LA, they're trying to get water and there's no water to be gotten. There's no more, they've emptied out the storage of water that they can use for fire. Like that's just a real thing that has happened, right? So that's when you run into the infrastructural failure of our country to adapt, to have a just transition, to prepare ourselves for the climate catastrophes that are unfolding.
Yeah.
We know that that's the why, but what we're dealing with now is how. How are we going to get through together? And I want to just keep pointing people towards solidarity. That's it's really, you know, solidarity with people that maybe you don't look at as allies, right? Expanding your heart to understand that like part of what's going to be happening with these disasters and these crises is that all the things that have kept us apart are going to collapse. Those systems that keep us apart, they're going to collapse. And what's going to be left is humans,
and we have
wanting
to be
survive and needing to figure out how we do that with each other.
Yeah.
And
be ready to be alongside each other. Yeah. And I think what I would add to that is I appreciated what the thing you were exploring around the like when someone you love is in crisis, like asking questions. And because I think that what happens sometimes, you know, we can accidentally slip into a sort of like bystander orientation to crisis. Mm-hmm. And in a bystander orientation, we're constantly looking for more information, right? And more information is not always going to be helpful in terms of being able to like take action. Yeah. And for those of us who are trying to figure out like how do we respond, I think that ultimately it comes back to that spiritual practice of unconditional presence and the ability to come alongside someone and say, I am here. Yes. Not so much like, tell me what you need, but rather, I am here for you, whatever you need. And then being alongside and being present to whatever the actual request is, which isn't, you know, I'm not saying that people shouldn't ask what people's needs are. I think that's always a good invitation. But I do think that when you're in crisis, you know, we all have been in and out of crisis our whole lives. So we all know this, that when you're the one who's in the crisis, more than anything, what you really need is to know that as soon as you figure out what the thing is, there's going to be someone that you can turn to and say, okay, this is what I need. And that person will be ready, willing, and able to like run with the request to execute. Exactly. And so that unconditional presence is, I think, going to be especially important in the days and weeks to come.
I think that's so true. And I think it's also like really being mindful because we're watching stuff so often on our screens. There's a way that entertainment and real life and all of it can collapse into one space. So we're just now I'm just watching this. Now we're all watching this. It's like, this is not a show. This is not a reality show. This is our lives. People are really going through extreme grief, extreme pain, extreme trauma, and then rapid change, right? Like really rapid change. And if we understand God is change, if we understand that like it is a divine, huge, holy thing that happens when change is happening.
Ooh, especially a disaster change. I mean, that is truly like the most holiest of changes in one's life.
Exactly.
A disaster, grief, and loss change.
We've been referencing the dispossessed. You know, I think we reference it often in our work in Ursula Le Guin's text, but one of the things I keep seeing from people is in the aftermath of disaster, I'm so grateful to be alive. And I recognize the preciousness of my aliveness, even as I grieve all that has been lost. I think we're in that period of history right now where it's like the holiest thing that we can do to unhook ourselves from these systems is to recognize how precious it is to be alive and to get to care for each other. And almost everything else can go. It can fall away and we can keep going, but we need each other to keep going. And I think that that's the place to lean into. And again, I find myself almost every time I'm talking to anyone being like, if get offline, if it's overwhelming your system, right? If you're like, I'm just scrolling and I'm not actually contributing, get offline and find ways to actually contribute something, whatever that may be. So if you're like, I'm really deeply shifted by this, okay, do a resource drive in your community for it, right? And or always solidarity is bringing it home. So I'm really hurting about what's happening over there. Let me help my community get more fire safe.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
I'm really terrified of what's happening. Let me get more disaster preparedness.
Let's make sure we're ready. Let's get ready
for because this is also going to be happening to all of us. So like what donations can I send? What resources can I send? How can I help people connect? But then also let me not be just part of the noise. Let me come over to my community and sit down and be like, do we have our go bags packed? Do we know what our core documents are? Do we even understand what the kind of crises are that can happen to us here and how to respond to them? Like, harness the energy, pull it back out of that just anxious scrolling space. And again, for your mental health, but also for your collective community health, bring that back into action.
Yeah. And on that tip, we just got an Ask Us Anything question from a listener about what should be in our go bags. And so we had just recorded that conversation anyway. We're going to post it in the feed. We're going to cross post it to our producer, Zach's Best Advice show as well, because we think it's one of those conversations that actually is, everyone kind of needs to be able to have access to it right now. Keep your ears open for that. That's coming soon. It's never too late to get ready. It's never too late to get ready.
It's never too late. So I had a little song come through yesterday, for this. The main essence of it was like energetically, in terms of your prayers and your spells and what you're sending towards the fire. We want to be calming the wind and calling in the rain, right? Really, it's been raining there. It's been wet there. It's been, the conditions are changing. This is actually all possible. We want to calm those winds and bring in some rain, bring in some relief so that people can take a breath and really assess what's happened so that there's no further harm, right? We want to stop what's happening. We want to make sure that everyone who can be evacuated, who needs to be evacuated, who can be moved to safety, is moved to safety. But that's the energy we want to be putting forward. It's like calming the fire, cooling the fire, pouring water on the wounds, pouring water, washing away the ash, washing away, right? Clearing, cleansing, and completing.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that prayer. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I love you,
Thank
sister.
you for hopping on to do this with me real quick, sister. I love you. We love our listeners so much.
We've got this, y'all.
We've got this.
We
believe in being ready.
We have all of, I know I'm kind of a broken record on this right now, but we actually do have the practices. We have the practices that we need. We just actually need to practice them. And when we practice, we get better.
Under pressure.
And we're practicing thriving survival. We will get better the more we practice.
I want to be really good at surviving.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. We love y'all.
I love you.
Mwah.
Mwah.